Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. You got to put on those headphones for you to listen to me, Jacob. You can't just fake it.
I'm trying to avoid listening to you as much as possible. I'm just soaking in these last couple seconds.
All right, yeah. Before your ears start to burn, right? All right.
Now I'm fully immersed in it.
Good. I'm Jason Harwood. I'm still pasty white, as Jacob pointed out in our last episode. He's always got a nice tan. Is Jacob Litton. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Another busy day at work. Red Wings are winning right now, but no Pistons today. Pistons last night. You're gonna tell everybody about how you snagged some nice Piston seats.
Yeah, we last minute thing decided to go up there. Fortunately, we get up there and Cade's not playing. Right, that was like the big disappointment. Jade and Ivy got the start instead. It was not what I wanted to hear, but ended up getting some row one seats for a pretty good price. We waited to the last second, Jacob. I got all the way up there and waited and bought the tickets. And
how did you buy them on like a Ticketmaster like resale
Ticketmaster? Yeah, I just bought them. They were resale seats. Row one, section 119, which is like behind the Pistons bench off to the side a little bit. So it's not like floor seats, row one, but row one of the regular section. But I got to be honest with you, Jacob, not a huge fan of those seats. So it was almost
as soon as you said that, I was like, "That's the corner." I feel like that's like
well, I'm okay with the corner. I'm okay with the corner. It's the problem is that you had to look through the bench to the floor, and those seats are almost below the bench. So we actually end up sliding back 2 rows in row 3. Talked to the usher. The usher was like, "No one's sitting in those seats. You guys go ahead and move." And because we wanted to stand, but we were afraid of blocking people behind us, so we moved to row 3. It was awesome down there, and we had a great time. Pistons obviously won. Even without Cade, even without Durant, even without Tobias, they still won. 3 starters are out, and they still beat the Bulls by 15. So it's good game.
Yeah, I felt like you were copying me. If you remember, the last game that I went to is when the Bulls came to town, and that was when everybody was out. There was
Yeah.
no Cade,
Yep.
no Dirk. I mean, that was when all the backups were playing,
Yeah.
and we ended up winning that game too. So it was nice. History repeated itself.
Yeah, it was really cool. There was actually right behind when we moved back, there was uh, uh, dad and his son. It looked to be maybe just a tad bit younger than me, but the son was probably about the same age. And guy was actually from New York. They were Nets fans, and they were just in town for. And he was the dad was in town for business. The son tagged along. The kid was wearing a Pistons hat. They were cheering for the Pistons, but they really liked the stadium. It was good. I also want to tell you something that's amazing that happened at this game. Uh, I'm gonna give a shout out to this usher. His name is Chris. He's the one that told us that we could move back to our seats. So we moved back. Preston has a Pepsi or a Coke or whatever, has it sitting in his he sits it in the cup holder. He goes up to get his pizza that's down in our regular seats, knocks the pop down, it goes all over the steps. I was like, I felt bad for him. It was like, three quarters full or whatever. The usher came over the towel. I said, "Let me clean it up." He goes, "No, I got this." So he cleaned it up. 5 minutes later, the usher comes back with a pop for my son. Like went up to the bar, got a pop for my son, and just replaced that pop, which I thought was amazing. Just I was gonna give Preston my pop and be like, I'll be fine, but the usher came up. So shout out to Chris, the usher. He was, I mean, totally unexpected, super nice. I was really happy with that. Couldn't believe it.
That's awesome, right? He
Yeah.
didn't have to take the time to go do all that. No, that's cool.
No, no, it
Helps with the
was
experience and everything too. Like, yeah,
yeah, and it
that's
just
all
like
right.
Preston went up to the usher, said thank you. I mean, he was really mature about the whole thing. Like I was just happy. It was just an amazing experience all around. So I did a survey today and I pointed him out, like just try to give him credit for that. Like whatever, if he gets, whatever, some extra kudos from his boss or whatever. I hope so because he deserves it. He really made my experience there and my son's experience much more enjoyable and just made us feel like we want to go back now. It
Right.
was awesome.
What if they're like, "Dang it, Chris, you can't be giving away free pops. We're
Yeah,
firing you."
exactly. I get rid of. He was like, "You're not supposed to do that." No, sitting in those seats down there, they want to take care of those people because we
Absolutely.
did spend
Them's usually the people that spend a lot of
$140.
money.
We did buy a Cade jersey, there. Actually, Preston bought it with his own money. He had
Oh wow.
Christmas money. He said, "You know what?" He we went in and he's so well, you saw the jersey, right? It's the blue one.
Right,
So
right.
I was
No,
wondering
that's the
what he
same
would
one that
choose.
Milo has.
Yeah,
But
he
that, there's something about buying it at the stadium, because you get the jersey is awesome. But when you're there and you buy like a souvenir and that stuff at the stadium, it always makes it a little bit more special, a little bit nicer.
yeah, I agree with you because like when he wears it the next time, he's gonna remember this trip going to get it, right? As opposed to
Exactly.
just
It's
getting it
not just a
somewhere else.
jersey, it's not just the team. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he went
But
with the
unfortunately,
traditional
that comes
blue.
with a big price tag.
Oh, it does. Yeah. $140 for that jersey. I told him I'm like buying a little bit extra big. Buy so we went up a size. It fitted over his hooded sweatshirt and he was fine with that because I was like, you don't want to buy it now and then because he's due for a growth spurt anytime now and I
Yeah,
didn't
right.
want him to like
He's got to give it
Bradley's
to
all
Bradley.
excited though because Bradley knows he'll get the jersey next.
Right, right.
All right, man. Enough about my Pistons night. Brad Holmes was talking today, right? So we were all kind of waiting on that. Okay, I'm gonna ask you what you wanted to hear, but I'm gonna just spill my beans right. I wanted to know what his demeanor was gonna be coming out. He's come out hot the last couple of years, just like talking confident, like some almost boastful at times, checking people's
True.
receipts and stuff like that. Obviously, we didn't even make the playoffs this year, so I was wondering what his demeanor was and where he was going to take accountability. So, what were you looking for from him in this interview? Like going in, like what were the key things that you were looking for?
I expected him to be humble, which I think that he was. I expected him kind of be humbled a little bit and admit that, it didn't work out and there were some failures on his part and, on the team in general. I did want to I wanted to hear specifically where he thought like what he could make some changes or where he thought, he could get a little bit better. And, unfortunately he did say like he admitted he could do some things better, but he was not willing to get specific and not willing to really throughout most of this. I don't think he got specific at that part. As
Hmm.
far as accountability and things go, I think, He admitted that it was a failure, that it was not a good year, but he also didn't really say how he viewed that as a failure, what he, other than the just general, we're not playing right now, we're not preparing for a game, it's over, which is obvious, right? So I kind of wanted semi-specific things as far as like the overall season, where maybe he thought he could work on a little bit better, how, some insight, which we got a little bit of, but not enough for me. I think that's what I kind of expected, and we didn't really get that.
Yeah.
What about you, though? What were you expecting up front?
I was hoping that he would have some accountability, like right away, say, I screwed up. Like, and I didn't want him to come in and be like, well, we trusted our plan and, it just, the injuries derailed us or whatever, trying to spur that offense somewhere else. He did very early on say that it starts with me. Like, I need to look at the mirror and figure out what I need to do. Um, and I'm with you. I would have liked to hear specific things. Uh, or at least just one thing that like, "Hey, this
Exactly. It
is
doesn't have to
what
be
we
your whole game
identified."
plan or everything. Like, right, just
Yeah.
something. Give us
Yeah.
something. Like,
And, um, and I get it. I mean, he did try to address it, says, from like, strategic I don't wanna give away too much about that, so I get that, and I also like, afterwards, I started thinking, I mean, it's been 4 days since the season. How much are you going to change? Like, I know that they should be identifying stuff through the season, but they haven't done a full, like, you know, him and Dan haven't sat through because probably the first 2 days are exit interviews with the players, right? And then you're trying to take all that information, be like, how are we going to address this? What did the players think? What did our coaches think? They've had to decide to fire John Morton already, which whether that was decided before the season, I mean, they did that quickly. He did address that. He did make the comment after firing John Morton is like, there's people like, you know, basically alluding to the fact that they want to get in early on the offensive coordinator like search. Like they don't want these people to be falling off the board, which means that they're going to react fast, I think, or at least they're going to interview some of these hot candidates really early. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. As far
right.
as like the newest
But, and
hot name
also
on the
admitted,
list.
yes, they're looking outside the building. It's not going to be,
Hmm.
right.
Yep. Yeah. And so like and they he talked about exactly what he was looking for in a coach. And one thing he didn't mention is prior play calling. That wasn't in his agenda. Like as far as the thing that's he listed, he was looking for more like leadership, detail oriented, and command of the room are the three things that he pinpointed that he wants. Um, for, the next coach to come in. Now, I would think like command of the room, you might have someone with a little more experience just because they would have a little more gravitas as opposed to like say a David Blau that they're going to interview. Like he's only been coaching 2 years. Will could he command a room? Yes, of course he could. I mean, I don't know him very much. And obviously if he's already getting interviewed, they have to have pretty high thoughts on him. Obviously he's been here before. It was nice that they added a new name to the list today, so that we're only not thinking about David Blau because that's kind of an underwhelming name for a lot of Lions fans. At least it was for me.
Right. And that's not, I mean, like you just said, as far as commanding the room, that's not anyone with experience. That's somebody that feels like a dice roll, and
Yep,
where we kind of need a sure thing right now, or as close to a sure thing as possible.
that's what we want. Yeah. So we'll hold on to the talks about the OC for a second. The next thing I wanted to ask you about that were the most interesting comments to me was the David Montgomery comments.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that to me that like uh, perked my ears up when he like because it sounded. I mean, before I give you my opinion, what did you think it sounded like he was saying when he talked about David Montgomery?
It made me angry. Honest, that was the only
Yeah.
part that kind of like made me a little bit angry and irritated, because it was just kind of the same. He offered that up, right? Like he was the one that mentioned like, oh, him possibly not being here, and about how his skill set and he deserves the opportunity, and for whatever reason he didn't get those touches. That's incredibly frustrating, because the opportunity was here. Those plays were there. The play calls were like, we should have given him the ball. And
Mhm.
now to talk about, and then he did say, like, he obviously David Montgomery is a heck of a football player and we want him here and he hopes that that's what happens. But what does that even mean? Like I don't understand bringing up him possibly not being here. From social media and stuff like that, it seems like you could tell David Montgomery's not happy. You could tell he kind of wasn't happy during these games because one, we're losing, and two, he's not getting the ball. It's
Mhm.
3rd and 1, it's 3rd and 2, it's 4th and 1. Why is he not out there pounding the rock? Like, what are we doing? And we said that for weeks. So that made me angry that he, basically admitted the same thing that we've heard from Dan Campbell. Like, just for whatever reason, we're not able to get to the ball, want him to be part of it, and it just wasn't able to happen. It was able to happen. I don't understand what, if anything, that's a follow-up question. Like, why didn't it happen then? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Why did you on 3rd and 1 let him run a fake pass to Goff instead of letting him run the ball? What,
Mhm. Yeah. That
I
that
would be very, very angry if we don't have David Montgomery on this team next year.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. When the comments when he started talking, like it really opened my eyes that like they're really thinking about moving on from him. Like I really got that feeling like that that the team had really thought about, and and to be honest with you, it could be from a David Montgomery standpoint too. They may be looking out for him like this guy deserves to play more. And
That's what I
so
thought, is that it
yeah,
was like for that.
right. And but the sad thing is like he could have a really big impact, especially if they make some of the offensive line changes that we needed and that we know need to happen going into next year. It could be, obviously he didn't get used that much this year. There wasn't much wear and tear on his body this year. Like he's going to be ready to go next year. And I mean, God forbid he goes inside, the division or something like that. That would be devastating to have to, or play it, an opposing team that we got to play. I don't want to do that because I know that Dave Montgomery is going to be, he's competitive and he's going to want to put it to lines and he's got the ability to do that. So I hope hope to God we avoid all that and we just figure things out. We get the offensive line worked out and we work out with Dave Montgomery.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What's his contract look like? I don't have that in front of me right now.
Yeah, I'll pull that up. I'll pull that up while I bring up the next player and I'll let you talk while I'm looking up
Yeah.
the Dave Montgomery contract. So the next one I want to bring up is the Kirby comments. What did you think about what it means for Kirby next year and just in general? Did you have any thoughts on Brad Holmes' some comments on Kirby?
It didn't make me feel any better about the Kirby situation, but I also think that that's pretty much like exactly what would have expected. I mean, which is what we saw too. Like in training camp, he looked good, looked like he was ready to go. And, when he was out there, he made positive plays and did really well. He was just battling this injury all season long. And obviously we talked about the thing too, like why not put him on IR? Why, what are we doing? And it's because he was on the cusp. He's working towards rehabbing. It seems like he's always right there. He has a couple setbacks, or like he just is right there. He's right there. He's right there. And then finally he had that one late in the season where they had to finally pull the plug on it. Um,
Hmm.
I From what I heard, that's not any new information or anything really insightful. That's pretty much exactly how I thought that it played out.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't get the feeling that they're like, hey, it's going to be fixed next year. I think it's something that Kirby's going to have. They're going to be dealing with. I think Brad Holmes is hoping that they strengthen the muscles around the area. They do anything they can to mitigate this, but it sounds like this is going to be an ongoing injury for Kirby Joseph going forward. Uh, one of the reporters did ask him like, should this have been addressed before signing the big contract? And, Brad Holmes is like, basically, we had the medicals. This did not come up. Doesn't sound like it came up beforehand, but you know, he was injured during training camp, and now, it just looks like it's going to be, it's like bone on bone. Like I don't think it's not even like surgery can fix this unless there are probably some medical things or maybe some rehab stuff that they can do to mitigate the problem. But it doesn't look like this is a problem that's going to go away.
Exactly. And I mean, you don't want it to be a situation where it's like he's got to constantly be doing therapy and injections just to get out there for the rest of his career.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. All right, so Dave Montgomery contract. So if he were to be cut this year we'd have a cap hit of $4.8 million in dead cap money. And now if you do that at post June 1st, you could spread that over 2 years. So it'd be pretty minimal. You'd have like, 2 to 3 million this year and 2 to 3 million, depending on how that figures out. The cap hit is 8.3 million. So they'd save basically 4 million by cutting him. Um, so can you get someone of David Montgomery's caliber for $4 million a year?
No.
That's what you have to ask yourself. Probably not, right? Um,
If
but
that's the move that you make, though, then you're sacrificing the running back position because you need help elsewhere and we need money elsewhere,
mhm,
right?
yes,
While also, if you're talking about doing right by David Montgomery, you would be willing to kind of like take a hit at the running back spot
yep,
and move that to offensive line or, on the defense, wherever that may be.
yeah,
I just don't, no part of me likes that at all.
yeah. The only other thing that you could add in there as a possible is a trade, right? So then you might get something in return. So therefore, you get the cap savings and a player pick in return. Can you draft a running back in the draft even later and get you know a you know a good replacement? Yeah, you can. You can hit on a running back, especially late. So I mean, I'm not saying that that's the plan. Let's do that because you're just as likely to get someone that can help as much as you can that can help, and you know what David Montgomery provides. You know what type of person he is. You know what type of player he is. So it's a lottery ticket if you're gonna go that other route. But if you're gonna say you're gonna cut him, I'd rather get something in return for him, as opposed to nothing. And then you can also direct on where he goes, as opposed to cutting him and he could sign with anyone. He could go back to Chicago, right? And then
Right,
all of a
right.
sudden you're dealing with that twice a year. At the
Yeah,
trade, you get someone back and you can say, well, I'm going to ship you to the AFC. So reduces the chance of me seeing you.
true. Um, and I mean, if that's a move that you trade him off to the AFC or whatever, and then you draft a younger, obviously you can get another younger running back that's more, I guess, of a bruising style, maybe. In terms of on-field production, that may work out okay. It's more of the locker room and everything that he brings, and the
Hmm.
the way he makes the people around him better. And yeah, don't want to lose David Montgomery just yet. I would like for him
No,
to be
I'm
able to play out this contract.
yes, I would be too, and I'd like for him to win something with us. Like it might be
Right.
part of that, be around that
Absolutely.
turnover. All right. The other comments that I think are going to be really polarizing with this fan base are the comments on Edge. Like basically said, we're going to do the same thing we did last year. He paraphrasing what Brad Holmes said. So did that? I mean, what's your reaction to his comments on Edge that, he was basically fine with the way they did things last year and that's how they're going to approach it this year?
The interesting thing for me about that is that he did say that Edge didn't come together in the draft the way that they wanted it to.
Hmm.
And to me, that sounds like they had some players circled. They had some edge players that they wanted to get in the draft, and they just were not able to hit on them.
Yep.
Whether that is something that maybe somebody are looking in like round 3 or later, and then weren't able to get it. They decided to take Tesla when they did. Maybe they had somebody on their radar for round 1, and then they went right
Hmm.
before we got there, and then they decided they were going to move, pivot to Tyleek. Him saying that makes it sound like that they did have edge people in the draft. They were looking there. They just were not able to hit on it. So I think like that sounds like possibly somewhere that we should be looking in this draft. Um, the frustrating part too is like when Al-Qadim Muhammad is mentioned and everything. It's like he also did not get enough playing time. And Al-Qadim Muhammad had, something, I don't have the quote in front of me right now, but he basically said he wants to go somewhere where he's valued and wants, Al
Hmm.
Qadim Muhammad doesn't want to get together. Did he have 10 sacks, 10 and a half sacks, or whatever?
I think he had 11 and a half. I think he was like way
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's due to get a little bit more of a payday, and he did that on limited snaps because we didn't have him out there enough.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, at the same time, I don't think the answer is let's pay Al Qadim Muhammad. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But you're not going to get that production again from Davenport or finding somebody else. Like, it's not
Hmm.
very likely. I
Yep.
think you need to draft. I also don't think, I mean, there's tons of edge players that are going to be free agents, but this is when you overpay right now. As soon as free agency starts, is when these players like Hendrickson, borderline record breaking contract, and different, I don't want to get in the business of paying somebody from the outside that much money. I do want to draft somebody. I want to go offensive line and defense in the draft.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
were your thoughts on what he said about the edge? Did you come away
I
with that
didn't
same takeaway about the draft? Did you catch that or
Yeah, I totally that was like I think that he's just basically saying just because it didn't happen didn't mean we didn't try to make it happen. Like just because he also alluded to the trade too. It's like just because we didn't make a trade doesn't mean that we were just like we're good. We're not going to do anything. We're totally fine. Like
It's funny
sometimes
that you
that's
use that words because is that not what he said before? He said, no, we're
yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, I think Dick Campbell's the one that we said we're good, but I think it gets attributed to Brad Holmes. But I think it's that thing like you don't see all the behind the scenes work. Like you don't know what they get to the doorstep on making a trade and then it falls through, right? It goes to another team or medicals don't check out or all the stuff that we don't see, like all that work that isn't public knowledge. What's public knowledge is a trade that's actually consummated, a trade that's made, and then you figure it out. And so, you know, and I know a lot of people are really upset that a trade wasn't made. I mean, a lot of people just took it as like, oh, you know, we're not taking this seriously or we need to be more urgent about things. But also making a bad trade, like let's say we gave up a second round pick and that player doesn't work out and we still don't make the playoffs. All of a sudden, we're out that second round pick. We can't get another edge, and then, that player that didn't work out. So like, there's ramifications for making those deals. You can't just make the deals to make the deals. They got to work out real well. And so I don't necessarily knock him for just a deal not happening. I don't know all the specifics, and I don't know of any deal that we would have made at the deadline this year that would all of a sudden made us a contender, like caused us to have a win. I don't know if that player was out there.
Do you think fans would have felt better or their perspective would have changed if he had just said, like, if he had mentioned Cincinnati or if he had mentioned like a team specifically, that we had
Yeah,
talks with them and it just didn't pan out?
yeah. I don't think that they're gonna betray any confidences and stuff like that, just to screw up future deals. And like they don't want to say, "Oh, we talked to Cincinnati about Trey Hendrickson or whatever," and then all of a sudden that's like, he's getting asked about
Yeah,
that.
but
The
also
Bengals
saying
can,
that you called or you talked to Cincinnati doesn't mean that Cincinnati entertained it. That doesn't mean that
right?
you
True.
went into specifics, but that is admitting that you were making phone calls.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Is do you think that people would have walked away from this a little bit better, knowing that he really did try? Because
So
right now
my
it's kind of just empty. Of course, he's going to say that he made these calls. He's going to say that
yeah
this happened, it didn't pan out, and I believe that. But I'm just saying for general fans and stuff like that, I don't know that they do, and you know, it sounds a lot like just a classic GM speak.
Yeah. Well, I don't really expect him to give away any specifics. Also, I think going into this press conference, if you thought Brad Holmes was doing a good job, you were okay with what he said. Uh, I if blame Brad Holmes for everything that's bad that's happened over this last year, and I definitely not in this camp of let's get rid of him, move on. Like there are like the comments on YouTube, like while this thing was live, were outrageous. Like there are people that want him fired. Like I get it, people are mad and they expect results, but I don't understand when you draft as well as he's drafted and got all those Pro Bowl players. Like I I I I don't get it. I don't care. You can say, well, he was drafted high and all that stuff. We've had high draft picks before, and Jeff Okuda, like all these high draft picks that haven't worked out. So that means very little to me. Getting Amon Ra late, Kirby Joseph was a late draft pick. Lee McNeil, third round pick. I mean, they've made later picks that have turned out to be really good players. Their top end players that they've drafted high in the first round have worked out, and that's not always been the case for the Lions. So I don't think that that's a pass that just because you drafted high that you get those good players. Like, he also traded back, still got Jameer Gibbs, and then ended up getting Laporta. Like that deserves a ton of credit too. So I don't. I
People
it
commenting on the YouTube presser just
oh
trolls.
I get it. I get it, but I'm comparing to like the previous other pressers that he's had. Like the negative comments were way more in this one than other. And then like before, people would call out the negative, and I think the negative voices are getting louder. I mean, I get it. People are upset. We did make the playoffs. We didn't win a playoff game last year. Um, you know, anything less than a Super Bowl is unacceptable for a lot of people, especially after we made the NFC Championship game. It's been a Super Bowl bust. I want to remind people that one team wins a Super Bowl each year and every other team is a loser. So, you know, if your expectation is Super Bowl or bust, okay, that's fine, but just prepare to be unhappy a vast majority of the seasons if you're going to consider that a failure if we don't get there.
For sure.
So, but that
As
being said,
Lions fans have every other year before this, though, too. Like, I mean, were you so getting used to the idea of winning that now you're just we missed the playoffs once and it's it's over
mm, yeah,
on a
well,
fluky season too. I mean,
yeah, yep. For a weird season, just in the NFL in general, just
yes,
just just totally weird. Um, but someone asked Brad Holmes if he thought we were far off, and his answer is no, and I'm right with him. There we are a few plays, honestly, like during the season from making the playoffs. There's probably like one or two plays that go differently, and we made the playoffs this year. And then is it look differently because does Amon Rod, not drop one of those critical passes? JMO you know, dropped a critical pass, game in games this year too. Losing Sam Laporta, like that would have made a difference down the stretch. Like there's just so many things that could have went differently, that weren't necessarily like Brad Holmes' fault or Dan Campbell's fault. Now, did they make decisions that have probably affected the season too? Yeah, they did. But I still think that they put a product on the field that could have made the playoffs, and outside of a couple of decisions, you know,
true.
so I don't know. All right. Anything else you want to say about Brad Holmes before we move on here?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So Ian Rappaport reported today, Mike McDaniel was fired. That was a surprise, right? Mike McDaniel being fired. It sounded like he was going to be part of the GM search. All of a sudden, he's fired. But Ian Rappaport reported that the Lions are interested in Mike McDaniel. So are you interested in Mike McDaniel for offensive coordinator? Say the Lions announced tomorrow that we got Mike McDaniel. Is that a home run to you? Are you happy, or are you concerned? What's your thoughts on that?
I would say that's a home run. I think the problem with Mike McDaniel just felt like, as far as like maybe he, you know, something about some of these times, some of these coaches are much better when they just can focus on the offense, when they just can focus on the defense, when they don't have, everything on their plate. And I think as a head coach, maybe he wasn't quite there yet. He's also still pretty young, but
Mm,
he came San Francisco. He's got a lot of experience, right? He's got a lot of experience. He's worked with why can't I think of his name right now? Sean
Shanahan.
McVay and Shanahan, LaFleur,
Mhm.
like all these guys have worked together side by side. So I mean, I think that's just about as good of a hire that you can make. I would put that up there with Daboll, maybe even better than Daboll, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
but as far as when you talk about what the Lions are looking for, and we're looking for commanding the room and stuff like that, that's the thing that's like maybe, I don't know. Depends on why they let him go. I know I mean, they do love him in Miami. His players love him. He's well liked pretty much everywhere that he goes. It just didn't work out for him there. The timing of it is weird as well.
Mhm.
Monday is usually when most coaches are fired, and they fired their GM on Monday, but then they waited until Thursday to fire Mike McDaniel. So don't know if the Dolphins saw some other coaches become available and decided they were going to bounce now. But in my opinion, I think that Mike McDaniel would be a nice get.
Yeah.
What do
I
you think,
agree. I
though?
think you could trust him with the play calling. Obviously he's
Yep.
called plenty of plays. I mean, he would always run things in motion, and I think that we're better when we put our players in motion. We have the players to do that, to move them around. You got Gibbs. I would love to see what he could do with Gibbs. And JMO too. Um, I know he's had mostly burners down there, but then you add in, Laporta and you add Laporta and Amon Ra to his tool chest there. So that would be interesting. I would be interested in it. I am curious how his vibe would work in Detroit. Um, I if you've ever seen a presser with him, I mean, the pressers would be
Nonchalant.
interesting. They
I
are,
think that's the word, nonchalant, for him. Like,
yeah. So I don't know how that's gonna fit. Like, I don't know what that vibe's gonna be like. And maybe that's just a Miami thing. Maybe that's just the way it was down there, and he could fit in here. So that'll be the question that they have to do in the interview, and I'm sure they'll be thorough on that. But that would be my question mark right away. Would be like the culture fit, the vibe and everything that he's gonna, you know, have up here. Plus, does he want to come to Detroit? He's San Francisco, Miami. Do you want to come up to this cold weather? Is it important with you to, is climate important to him? I don't know, but I'm glad that they're at least kicking the tires on it and gonna, interview him. It's an interesting hire that when we talked on what would be Tuesday, 2 days ago, we talked we didn't think that that was gonna be possible. It looked like Mike McDaniel was gonna be back, and now all of a sudden, that's just another it's another reason why, hey, we're gonna fire John Morton now so we can get right in the ground floor with some of these interviews because Mike McDaniel is gonna be highly sought after for any offensive coordinator, and we'll get to it here in a second. But like a quarter of the league's looking for new head coaches. They're gonna all be looking for new offensive coordinators, right? Or at least majority of them are. So you better, if we could hire something like if we identify the candidate early, I don't think we rush and make a mistake. But if we identify a candidate early, we need to jump now before these other teams start hiring uh, their head coaches, and then all of a sudden they're going to start making the calls on these coordinators.
exactly. I mean, this is when you jump ahead, you bring him in for the interview, and then if everything works, you try your best not to get him to leave.
Yep. All right. Why don't you go over it? So I just mentioned it. There's 8 head coaches, openings here. Jacob, why don't you compile the list here? Got some interesting facts on them. I'm gonna let you run through that. And any quick thoughts you have on those coaches.
Yes, real quick, I'll run down. So eight head coaches have been fired. There's 8 head coach openings in the league right now. So Arizona, Jonathan Gannon, he lasted 3 seasons. Last year he went 3-14. Atlanta, Raheem Morris, 2 seasons. He went 8-9 last year. Probably the biggest name on here. Baltimore, John Harbaugh, 18 seasons in Baltimore. He went 8-9 last year. They were a missed field goal away from making the playoffs, and they still let him go after 18 years. Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, 6 seasons. He went 5-12 last year. 45-56 record overall over those 6 seasons, but 2 Coach of the Year wins, which we've talked about on the show before. Just kind of crazy, and everyone that listens knows how we feel about the Coach of the Year award. But anyway, Las Vegas, Pete Carroll, 1 year. They gave old Pete 1 year. He went 3-14. I think this also has something to do with the fact that Las Vegas has the number 1 pick in the draft. I think they're looking for a full reset. Do it now while you got the number 1 pick. Get everything established. But for what it's worth, they've had 5 head coaches or acting head coaches in 5 years. So Pete Carroll, Antonio Pierce was last year. Josh McDaniels, what was the guy's name that was with Josh? Or was it Antonio Pierce that took over for Josh?
Antonio Pierce was with Josh and then came up. Yeah.
I don't know how you say his name. Rich. Was it Bazach?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Almost spell it. Yeah. Anyway, they've had several head coaches, so important for Vegas to try to get this one right. And then Miami, we just mentioned Mike McDaniel. So he lasted 4 seasons there, 7-10 last year. And then the Giants, Brian Daboll, 4 seasons in New York. He was 2-8 when they let him go in the middle of the season. Tennessee, Brian Callahan, 2 seasons there. He was 1-5 when they let him go. So 8 openings in the league. I think of the 8, 3 of them are NFC. No NFC North openings. However, there's going to be some NFC North teams with players with coaches that are interviewing. I don't know if you saw, but Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley is getting called. Arizona, Atlanta, and Tennessee requested interviews with him, and then Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores interviewed with Baltimore. and I hope that he leaves.
I'm hoping
Get
both
out of the
those
NFC
guys are
North.
out of there. Let's get, I both of those. I mean, Flores, we other than this year, we managed him really well. And the difference this year is our offensive line. Like we just could not handle the stunts that he was pulling. Um, and I think it just shows that like if you could block up his schemes really well, then he leaves his back end wide open. And the problem is that sounded really bad. And, I just I'll be okay with Flores leaving. I'll be really okay with Halfley leaving. Anything to weaken the Packers would be great. So Halfley being out of there would be, uh, there he did a good job defensively. So I'll be glad to see him gone. Um, I'd be Flores is interesting whether he gets, if he gets another head coaching job. And I think Baltimore would be a team that would take a chance on him. I think him and Steelers would be the two teams that would maybe buck the trend and go with Flores and just say, I don't care what the league says about him because I mean he's still suing the league. I think Flores is from, his getting
The
fired in
Miami
Miami.
stuff. Right.
So interesting, but yeah, I'd be okay. I'd be okay with them going, especially if I don't know about halfway as far as head coaching. So I really don't even care. I just want them out of. I just don't want them in their positions, defensive coordinator positions in the division.
Yep. Screw him. Leave.
Yeah. I got a question for you. So out of the coaches that have been fired, there's 8 of them. How many of them are actually coaching? Do you think any of them? I think at least one. I think Harbaugh is going to be a head coach next year. Do you think any of the others get a head coaching job?
The only other one that I think would be Raheem Morris.
I think
I like Raheem
Stefanski could
Morris.
get one. I think
Maybe.
Stefanski
I
could
mean,
get a job.
Stefanski's got the experience, and the coach of the year thing, but I don't know. I've never understood. I don't think Stefanski. I mean, 6 seasons. Obviously, he's been 45 and 56. Has not been great. I think every year that they made the playoffs, which was twice, is the years that he won Coach of the Year, because that's all
Mhm.
it takes for Coach of the Year is to make the playoffs with the Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
But Raheem Morris went 8 and 9, I think, both years with the
Mhm.
Falcons, and I don't know if it's his fault that they blew it up by drafting Penix and doing what they did there, but
Yeah.
it feels like he had the odds stacked against him for that. So that seems a little bit weird for me that Atlanta moved on that quick, but I think it's more likely that these guys get coordinator positions.
Yeah.
But
I
Harbaugh, yeah, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking after Harbaugh.
yeah, I think so too. And I'm wondering if Miami firing McDaniel had anything to do with Harbaugh being available. I mean, you I know Jim's got the Michigan ties, but that the owner down there, Ross, loves Michigan. Probably would like to have a Harbaugh, as a coach. So I'm curious if that had anything to do his availability had anything to do with Mike McDaniel getting fired late. Not right away.
I don't know how it wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Like I just don't. The thing is though, that's also a pretty big dice roll for them to be,
Hmm.
on the surface to seem content with Mike McDaniel. And then as soon
Yeah.
as Harbaugh's available, now he's gone. Like, what if you don't get Harbaugh? Like, what did that just seems weird.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I think Harbaugh to the Raiders also just makes sense. Like, they like splash hires. Vegas always has. Now Brady's in there, so maybe he, has different thoughts. But also Brady seems like someone that would respect John Harbaugh too. As
True.
far as, getting someone in there with respect and, is at least gonna manage a good program. Regardless of what you think about Harbaugh, at least he could command the respect of his team, get them to respectability. And I think that's your first step if you're I mean, if you're the Browns, you got to be looking at Harbaugh, right? I mean, I would, if you're the Browns, like, why would you not look at Harbaugh? He's been beating your butt for the past, 18 years. Uh, and what would be better to steal the coach away from the Ravens, this franchise that used to be you, and now you could come in and get Harbaugh in here and then, maybe do some damage. Like, I that wouldn't shock me if he ends up in Cleveland.
Do you think the leash for Harbaugh is going to be shorter, or just like, because of his age, because of how long he's been around? Like, let's say he does go to Vegas, and Vegas finishes 3-14 again next year, and then
Yeah.
let's say they get like 5 wins the year after that. Like, how long do you give somebody before if they're already that established? I mean, the idea
Yeah.
of bringing him along is that you change the culture quick. You've been around, you know what to do, you know how to, get this team back on track. But I mean, most of these teams that you're looking at, maybe not Miami. I mean, obviously you can't go back to Baltimore, but the teams with the best record last year would be Miami or Atlanta. Other than that, you got pretty significant turnarounds that you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like if you're Vegas and you've got the number one pick and everything, you're probably wanting a little bit younger of a coach, or you're wanting maybe not necessarily to win now, but you're wanting to grow now, right? You're wanting everything
Yeah.
to come together so that you guys can compete, maybe year two.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh get. I mean, what he's probably going to get a little longer leash because he's probably going to sign a huge deal. Because
Right.
like
The
there's
contract
going to
is
be a
going to be
lot.
longer, absolutely, but that
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean that they let him play that out.
yeah, no, that's 100% true. But I think that's going to be a little longer and a little higher because I think there's going to be multiple teams, vying for his services. So, I mean, he could also just buck the trend and just go with the team that is the best fit for him, whether it's location or you know maybe he wants to have the number one pick. Maybe he likes Mendoza. Maybe that he likes that, or maybe he doesn't like Mendoza and he's like, I'm not going. We're not going there. I don't want to deal with that. But it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. It didn't look like there was going to be that many coaches opening, like at least initially, and now it's a quarter of the league is looking for a new head coach. It's insane.
Right. Wild.
Yep. All right, Jacob. It is time. Let us do our picks. We're gonna pick every game from the wild card round here. Let me get this up here. All right. Our first one, Jacob, is first of all, let me ask you, out of all these six games, they chose they chose the Chargers Patriots for Sunday Night Football, and I think that and the Monday night are probably your two marquee matchups. Are you okay with that Sunday night matchup, Chargers Patriots, or was there another game that you'd rather have Sunday night?
In my opinion, the best game right here is the Bills and the Jaguars. I think that is
Okay.
the best game. Um, I would say 49ers, Eagles, and Chargers, Patriots are kind of close. So I mean, I guess I'm okay with it. I don't care either way.
Yeah, we're
What
gonna
you said,
watch
there
every
is a
game.
Monday night game, or there's just
Yeah, there's a
Saturday and
Monday night
Sunday?
game. So the
Which one's Monday?
Texans Steelers is Monday
Oh,
night.
okay. Yeah, that's
So when
trash.
they
But
yeah. So they, remember when they did the wild card weekend, they added a Monday night game in there, which kind of sucks for them because then they get a short week compared to, you know,
exactly that. Right. How does that make sense?
hmm yeah.
Congrats.
If
Now
I
you're instantly at a
Yeah,
disadvantage.
you're behind the eight ball there. I agree with you. The out of the all I mean, outside of the Packers Bears, just because the NFC North ties, I mean, I'm interested in that just
Right.
naturally. Although I wish somehow both those teams could lose. I wish they weren't playing each other so that they both could lose. But um I think the most intriguing one is the Bills Jaguars. And I think that's, you know, does this got to be the Bills' year? I mean, the Chiefs aren't in there. That's been their bugaboo for like ever. And now the Chiefs aren't even in there. And if you're a Bills fan and you don't get past the Jags, what what do you think? I mean, that would be devastating to me.
Right. Very,
Yeah.
very tough to swallow. But at the same time, they are on the road for their first
Yeah.
game too. And,
Hmm.
you know, I don't think the defense has been as good this year. They didn't win their division. So
That's correct.
yeah. Exactly what you just said. They've got to be feeling like we need to do it this year. There's no Burrow, there's no Mahomes. Like, we've got Josh Allen still. I think they've got a pretty healthy team, but
Yeah.
I I can sympathize with Bills fans for if they don't get this one.
Yeah. We've been there before. All right. So let's make our picks here. Rams, Panthers, first game. Panthers beat the Rams earlier in the year. The Rams on the road, even though the Panthers are less than 500, the Rams go on the road, favored by 10.5 on the road. At least that was a spread earlier today. Jacob, who do you got in this one?
I don't think there's any way you can pick against the Rams, right? Although it would be amazing if the Panthers, like if lightning can strike twice and the Panthers find a way to, have success on the ground and, have Stafford turn the ball over a couple times, that's the formula for success. I just don't see it happening. I think the Rams are going to win.
Yeah. I'm gonna buck the trend. I'm going with the Panthers in this one. I think this is gonna be
Okay.
the shocker this weekend. Yeah, I think Stafford's not been playing as great lately, and we'll see. I mean, the Rams are a great team, and if Stafford doesn't turn the ball over, the Rams are gonna win this game. If Stafford turns the ball over, the Panthers are gonna win this game. So I think it just comes down to that. But I also, I really do not want the Rams. I'm actively rooting against them. Like, I cannot, I don't want to have them success because then we look back at that Goff Stafford trade and it looks differently if Stafford gets another title. So I'd rather just reduce my stress and have the Panthers win right away, and then I don't have to hate watch the rest of the playoffs. So
Yeah. I agree with that. I don't want the Rams to win either, but
yeah, I
I think
gotcha.
they're going to manhandle the Panthers here.
Yeah, all right. Well, it'll be the first game, so we'll know right away how this is gonna go. All right. Packers Bears is the next game. Packers are favored on the road by 1.5. Who are you taking in this? I'll go first. Actually, I went let you go first last time. I'm going with the Packers in this one. I think the Bears streak ends. I think the Packers are going to take this. Where are you at?
Yeah, same. I think the Packers are going to beat the Bears. The Bears, obviously, they need a few things to go their way. They need a few lucky bounces and an onside and whatever they may need. I will say that I'm rooting for the Bears in this one. I would rather the Bears beat the Packers in this one,
Hmm.
and then just get embarrassed next weekend, maybe. But I'm with you. Can they just maybe it's the first double overtime game? Can we like go to triple
Oh,
overtime and quadruple? Like just nobody scores because they
just
suck.
everybody, you know. Let me ask you this though: are they going to include Caleb Williams in the stats, like to get to 4,000? Are they going to say it? And a Bears quarterback hit 4,000 yards in one season as soon as he hit, 'cause I think he needs less than 100 to get there. So, like, are they going to fudge it to say that it's the first 4,000-yard passer?
They need something interesting to talk about on the broadcast, right?
Yeah.
Has there been a passer playoffs included that have hit 4,000? I still
I
don't
don't
think there
know.
is,
I
right?
don't. I would say unlikely, but I don't. I don't know. It'd be interesting. So we'll see. All right, next game, the game that you and I both have identified as the game that we're probably looking to the forward to the most. Bills favored at 1.5 on the road at the Jags. So, and on the first three games, the road team is the more favored team so far. Who are you picking, Jags or Bills in this one, Jacob?
It's weird to me, but I'm gonna pick the Jaguars.
All right.
We just talked about it, and I do feel like Josh Allen knows like the time is now and everything. Like, I think that's some people rise up to that challenge and they're able to lock in and everything, but I think it's almost going to put sort of like more pressure on the Bills, like that they need to get it done this year. And what if they don't? And I think it's going to be big for them being on the road. Also,
Yeah.
they can't, the snow can't help them this time. So
Yeah, I'm going with the Jags as well on this one. I think
wow, okay,
I think that this is I'm still picking the Jags and the Panthers both to win. That's crazy, but
yeah,
I think the Bill, like you said, the Bills defense has not been that good. You've been able to get to Josh Allen. It's going to be a matter of whether they can, if they can have him create a mistake, then they're really going to have a chance. The Bills have not impressed me like much this year, and whether they're going to have to retool next year and you know get that defense to be better. I don't know, but I think their season ends this week, and Jaguars take it. All right.
I mean, Jaguars are a sleeper pick though too. Like the Jaguars have a top 10 offense, they have a top 10 defense.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost 4 games this year. Those games, they lost the Bengals in week 2, I think by a field goal, and that's with Burrow and everybody healthy. But then they lost the Seahawks, the Rams, the Texans. Those are
Yep.
the losses that the Jaguars have had. And they're
Yep.
on in I think an 8-game winning streak.
They
So, I
played
mean,
well.
they're right and they're coming in hot. Like all of that lines up, you know, not that I'm willing to bet money on this one. This is going to be a close game. I feel like they're going to get it done.
Yep. All right. 49ers, Eagles. I hate both of these teams. I wish they could both lose. I don't like Panthers are the only team that I want out of the NFC. Like they're the only ones. I want
Yeah,
everybody
right.
else to lose. Uh I, however, am going to take the Eagles in this one. The Eagles seem to do well in the playoffs, and I think the 49ers injuries are going to take their toll. I think it is in Philadelphia. I think that they're going to have enough to beat them. I don't know if I have faith the Eagles to keep going. Their offense has been very unreliable this whole season, and we'll see if their defense is going to be up to par. But I think the Eagles will be enough in this game to beat the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers kind of fell flat against the Seahawks last week. The Seahawks have one of the best defenses, but the Eagles also have a very good defense too. So the Eagles offense may struggle and maybe they can't get it together, but they are playing at home. So I'm leaning towards the Eagles on this one. Although I
Yeah.
think I would rather see the 49ers win.
I think 4.5 is a pretty big spread, though. I would I put this more at a field goal game, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
true.
Um, if I was going to bet the spread, I'd take the 49ers plus the points. But as far as overall winner, I'll go with the Eagles. All right, Sunday night game is Chargers at Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 3.5. So outside of the Rams game, I mean, the largest spread is 4.5. Everything else is under 4.5. So this one's at 3.5. Patriots, Chargers. Who you taking in this one, Jacob?
I mean, the Patriots have a top 3 offense, top 5 defense. It's hard to pick against the Patriots. Their losses were at the beginning of the season. Ever since then, they've been on a roll, except for that 1 week against the Bills, and even that was like a kind of a crazy comeback by the Bills, where the Patriots were up by a lot. So I think it'd be very, very hard to pick against the Patriots. I am rooting for Harbaugh and the Chargers. That would be cool for them, but I don't think their offense is going to be able to move the ball consistently enough. I think the Patriots are going to win.
Yeah, I don't have the faith in the Patriots to move far in the playoffs. I mean, they had a fairly easy schedule, um, and Drake May is unproven in the playoffs too. I mean, he's got to do it, and also I'm just not ready for the Patriots to be back. Like they need to take like a whole
True, true.
decade off or longer. I just don't want to see them be back, but I do think they win in this game. I don't think the Chargers have enough offensively to win this game. Chargers defense is pretty good. We could see a tight game, but I still think the Patriots are going to do enough to win this game. All right.
And the Chargers
Last
could also frazzle them enough from the defensive side of the football, and their offense
mhm.
could do enough to upset them.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, these tight games, I mean, turnovers is going to be huge in all these games. I mean, it could really come
Of
down to
course.
when you got these spreads that close. I mean, that really means like just one key turnover here or there could, or a key red zone stop, a turnover on downs, something like that. It could really turn the tide in one of these games. Now I think in the first game, I think the Panthers are going to need more than one turnover. I think they're going to need a couple turnovers, but the rest of these games are going to be really tight. And you look at a team like the Bears, they've been living this year on turnovers. So if they get those, if Jordan Love throws it up and gets turned over, turn him over a couple times, could fall in the Bears' favor. So I think it's fairly obvious you win the turnover battle, you win the game. But I really think in these tight games, playoff games, it's the whoever wins those turnover battles probably gonna have. I think they're gonna have a better chance of winning these games. All right, Texans.
Well, that cursed us last year, right?
Yes,
I mean, you can't
exactly.
mention it without like that's 5 turnovers. You can't win football games like that.
No, you can't. Um, Texans favored by 3. at the Steelers. So that means what? Four of the 6 games this weekend, the road team is favored. Um, in these games. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's happened that much before, but Texans at Steelers. I'm going first on this one. I'm taking the Texans. I think I'd be surprised if the Steelers could move the ball at all on the Texans defense. It is so good. Steelers offense is not that good. Uh, Aaron Rodgers is not mobile. I think he's going to be a huge target for them, uh, getting pressure on him, and just mistakes are going to happen. So I think the Texans offense will be able to muster enough against the Steelers defense to score enough points. And I don't think it's going to have to be much. So I'm taking the Texans over the Steelers.
Agree. Exactly. The Texans defense is just way too good. The Steelers are kind of like middle in the pack as far as offense and defense goes. So I just don't think they're going to be able to move the ball enough, and I don't know if they're going to be able to stop the Texans either. So I think the Texans win by 10 plus.
Yeah. Wow. 10 plus, huh? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I feel on the overall points, but I just don't think the Steelers are going to be able to even come up with, enough points. And I expect, Rodgers to throw a pick and also probably fumble the ball too. I just think he's
Yeah.
going to get hit
Good.
hard back there, which is fine. I didn't even want to make the playoffs, and then he beat us this year, which really upsets me. It's Kirby didn't play in that game. Kirby owns him, and he would have got 2
Right.
picks had Kirby played in that game. So it's all Kirby's fault that he didn't play. But all right, we plan on this being a short podcast. It is an hour, so I think we're going to head out here unless there's anything else that you need to talk about.
Nope. We're good.
All right. I think we'll be back on Tuesday unless something, major hits before then. We get a new OC or something like that. We might jump on, do emergency podcast and talk about that. But as of right now, I think we're gonna shoot for Tuesday so that we're off on the POD days, even though POD went with an emergency podcast with the Brad Holmes stuff today too. So you know, no
It's all
big
good.
deal. I mean, you can listen to it whenever you can listen to it. We appreciate everyone that's been listening along with us live, and yeah, enjoy it when we get this up on Friday morning, and we'll see you next week. He's Jacob. I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.